Hi everyone, this is Raymond Dijkstra from Saor Alba NL. Colin, the photo is gone again. It's just a photo. There we go. From Saor Alba NL. This is our first interview video that we're going to do on our new YouTube channel. As a guest here, we got Colin Macpherson. How you doing, mate?
Hi Raymond, I'm doing fine. How's yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. Like I said, this is a first interview show. Colin, for the people that don't know you, can you just please give a quick introduction on who you are?
Right, my name's Colin Macpherson, as you've very eloquently said. As you might hear from my accent, I'm Scottish. I've lived in Germany for over 30 years, and I'm one of the admins in the German for Independence group. I helped to run the Twitter account, helped to run the Facebook page, and basically we are trying to raise awareness for Scottish independence within Germany.
Exactly, and that's what we are doing on this YouTube channel as well. Colin and I have discussed this. We're probably going to, in the future, have a closer cooperation with the YouTube channel as well, but that's for later. What we want to do with this channel is, like you said, is raise more awareness and enhance on what we already have for the support for Scottish independence in Europe. And so I hope this channel will add to that as well. Yeah, Scottish independence. We live in Europe. You as a Scot, I can understand. People might understand that, but why is the support for Scottish independence in Europe so important, Colin?
Quite simply, at the last referendum in 2014, we were told that nobody in Europe really cares. And then we had this whole Brexit shenanigans, Clusterburach, and we remember the speech from Alan Smith in the European Parliament, one of our Scottish MEPs, where he said just after the Brexit referendum, Scotland didn't let you down, please don't let Scotland down. And then when he thought it might be his last speech in the European Parliament, when it was still unclear as to whether or not the European elections 2019 would happen in Scotland, he says, leave a light on in Scotland for, leave a light on in Europe for Scotland. Exactly. I think what we aim to do is we aim to show that we're not just a light in Europe, we're a burning fire for Scottish independence.
Oh, well, yeah.
Again, I live in a very small city. There's about 48,000 folk live here in the heart of Lower Bavaria. And if I went down into the town square and did an ad hoc opinion poll, I would say 98% of people would say Scottish independence, what's that? When you get talking to folk, and I've done a lot of that with my friends, and I know Mark has been doing the same in the place where he stays.
Yeah.
When you get talking to folk, they say, I see where you're coming from. And you raise awareness, it becomes a snowball effect. The more folk are aware of it, the more it becomes interesting for media. And the more you get onto local media, the more you then get onto national media, so that by the time we have our next referendum in Scotland, which I hope will be very soon, I still haven't given up hope of it maybe being 2019, at the very latest 2020. We will have the support in Europe, which we're already seeing. We had, again, the European MEPs signing a letter saying they wanted to see an independent Scotland fast-tracked back into the EU. So things are moving in the right direction.
Definitely.
And what we do, very much the same as what folk are doing in Scotland, where in Scotland, the independence movement has been carried on since 2014 by the grassroots, getting the grassroots involved in Germany. Now, somebody who lives in Lower Bavaria, who has no connection with Scotland, maybe has never been there on holiday before, they don't have to be a supporter of Scottish independence, but they have to be sympathetic to the idea. And that's what we have to do in Europe. make folk aware of what we're trying to do in Scotland and get this sympathetic attitude where folk in Europe say, Scotland, we'd like to welcome you back. That is our job.
But me personally, for me, you know the story, I started doing my bit for Scottish independence right after the last referendum. When I joined the SNP, I started doing a lot of work online. 2 years ago, I started the first international march and rally for Scottish independence. Then you guys did one in '97 as well, two after each other, and
2019 in Berlin.
Yeah, well, yeah, but in 17, I mean, and then I did one again. I've done three now. You guys did two now, and but I would even take it a little bit further than for that. I truly believe that it's not. We are fighting for Scottish independence, but I think it's nobody should be ruled from afar, and that's why I'm fighting for. I'm fighting against oppression on any level, for any country that's being oppressed from afar or being oppressed by other people, stuff like that. Right now, we're fighting for Scottish independence, and they are basically ruled from another place. They only have partial self-determination. Is that correct? Like about 17%.
Devolution, there are some powers which are evolved from Western, but there are many powers which are reserved.
Yeah, exactly, and that needs to change because nobody should be. How would you say it? I can't think of the right word, but everybody should be able to decide on their own affairs, on being it from the environment, being it from agricultural sector, being it from any kind of produce that comes in. They should not have to rely on handouts from Westminster in this case, and because that's what it is. Scotland gets an allowance basically back from every revenue that comes out of Scotland. They get an allowance back, and that needs to stop. There's no country in Europe or even the world, I think, that has this. Well, maybe the other countries in the UK as well. I don't know how Wales and Northern Ireland are doing in that respect, but it's just ridiculous. And and that's what we want to show to the rest of Europe and to the world, basically, to why support for Scottish independence in Europe is so very important. And I hope a lot of people will be getting behind that in Europe. Another thing that comes to mind in the most recent weeks, months, years is the whole Brexit thing. You mentioned it a little bit, Colin. Wouldn't you agree that the whole Brexit debacle is kind of like the final nail in the coffin for the UK?
I would hope so. One thing it certainly does is it shows the democratic deficit that folk in Scotland currently are living under. In Scotland, as I'm sure you're aware, 62% voted to remain in the EU.
Exactly.
There was a slim majority UK-wide for Brexit. Now, I'm not going to go into how the Brexit negotiations have been conducted here, because I think we're both agreed there are shambles, and it was, just like the referendum in the first place, an internal Tory party war.
Exactly.
What really annoys me just right now, and again, this video is going to be online for a while. We're talking here in July 2019, in the middle of the leadership election, Boris Johnson or Jeremy Hunt for the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, voted for by, amongst others, about 8,000 people in Scotland who are members of the Tory party. Both prospective leaders, prospective prime ministers, have claimed they will not allow another Scottish independence referendum. In spite of there being a triple locked mandate, the Scottish Tories have been banging on about it for 3 years and the rest, how they don't want another Scottish independence referendum. They say that no amount of flag waving will blind folk in Scotland, that people in Scotland don't want another divisive referendum. They are running scared. The Tories are not the party of democracy.
Hell no.
Have the Tories, including the Tory MPs, sitting at Westminster in seats that voted to remain in the EU, becoming the most hardline Brexiteers you could ever imagine, irrespective of the way their constituents, the folk that voted them in, would like them to go, because they're toeing the party line at Westminster. That is the democratic deficit that Scotland is faced with. And so when you say final nail in the coffin, I would hope so. Because the more this goes on, the more folk in Scotland, even those who maybe voted voted no in 2014, under the false promises of the vow, under the false promises, the only way to stay in the EU is to stay part of the UK, as the classic example.
Yeah.
These folk must surely finally realise that their voice is not represented by a Tory. As simple as that. The Tory MPs, I like to call them, the 13 of them, the fakers dozen. Good mate of mine coined the phrase. They were going to stand up for Scotland at Westminster. Are they? No, they're not. They are just kowtowing to their preferred candidate, hoping to get maybe some dregs, hoping to get a couple of ministerial jobs, maybe a parliamentary private secretary job for toeing the party line. They're not interested in Scotland. And that is what folk in Scotland will and are realising, that this Westminster Union is broken. There is no place for Scotland. We are treated like a second-class citizen. I quite often say we're the last UK colony.
Yeah. Well, that's how they look at it. But wouldn't you also agree maybe that once, and it is going to happen, they cannot stop it anymore, but once Scotland achieves the goal of independence, wouldn't you agree that the rest of the UK will fall apart as well? Like, especially with in Wales now, there's a chapter of All on One Banner. In Northern Ireland, there's a chapter of All on One Banner as well, organizing events there as well. I mean, I truly believe that once Scotland attains its independence, that's it. I think the UK will fall apart.
Well, just tonight we had an interesting report that the Welsh First Minister, who is Labour and basically a unionist, announced or replied in a question in the Welsh Parliament that if Scotland were to become independent, then it would be worth Wales looking at independence. We can see support for independence in Wales growing. We can see support in Northern Ireland for a united Ireland growing. But at the same time, while I follow it with interest, it's not my problem, because my concern is Scotland.
Oh, I hear you. But Scotland now being part of the UK, it is basically something that you can discuss, because right now you're still, Scotland is still part of it.
Scotland can be the beacon of light,
Yeah,
showing the way forward.
Good one.
I do firmly believe that Wales, as an independent country, has just as much a chance of surviving and doing well as Scotland does.
Yeah.
Republic of Ireland, we know, has been doing very well as an independent country now for nearly 100 years. And if the North were to decide to reunite, again, we're not going into history here, but we know that the partition had basically political reasons back in the day. And if the people in Northern Ireland were to decide their future lies with the Republic of Ireland, then good luck to them.
Yeah. Well, we're about 16 minutes into the show now. I hope you liked the first interview section of our channel. Colin, do you have a final message for people watching?
Quite simply, we have to work for Scottish independence. We have to raise awareness. I'm talking here from a German point of view. We have to raise awareness amongst the grassroots, with the politicians, with the mainstream media. We're working on it. If you're in Germany and you would like to help us, feel free to join us on Facebook or on Twitter, Germans for Scottish Independence. Just do a search, you'll find us. And everybody watching back in Scotland, we've got your back.
Definitely. And the same goes for our group, Netherlands for Scottish Independence. We're on Facebook as well as the German group. Just find us there if you need any information. And if there's anything that you would like to do from your end in your country, maybe we can get you in contact with smaller groups that are already there, so you can just build on from there. And yeah, I hope you like the interview, and be sure to share and our channel. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, and so you'll be up to date on all the videos that are going to be posted on this channel. I hope you like it, and have a good night.